back. Time for another edition of the Carolina Insider Rapid Reactions edition after Tar Heels make a big comeback. They swing it from down 14 to up 14 in the second half, and Carolina eventually beats Florida State 78-70 in the Smith Center to improve to 7-1 overall, and of course getting their first win in ACC play. Jones and Adam here with you. And Adam, this game looked like I think you thought it might look like for a little while, where Carolina was just not as sharp or crisp as it wanted to be. I think that's, while you don't accept it in any way, I think it could have been at least a little bit anticipated due to the emotional game on Wednesday night and the fact that Carolina is going to New York to play another big non-conference game. You had this game against a good Florida State program and team in between, and the Tar Heels just didn't look very sharp for the first, let's say, 25 minutes or so. But, man, some defensive pressure, some, I thought, important lineup changes from Hubert Davis all added up to Carolina making a big comeback and being from down 14. They tied it up with 7 minutes to go in the second half and eventually win it by 8 in the Smith Center.
What a fun afternoon at the Smith Center. That felt like, I think it did. It felt like ACC basketball, even though it was the first Saturday of December and the opponent was Florida State.
Florida State's an ACC team.
I know. So it just felt like a good ACC win. Great crowd. It felt like, you mentioned, Hubert Davis made a couple adjustments. He wasn't just going to let this game happen to the Tar Heels. And it felt like the crowd wasn't going to just let this game happen to the Tar Heels. They were going to make an impact in some way, and they did. And the tweaks that Hubert Davis made a big difference.
One of those tweaks was Carolina going with a 3-guard lineup with Ellie Cadeau, R.J. Davis, and Seth Trimble all playing together. I know plus-minus isn't like the end-all, be-all stat, but Seth Trimble was plus 24 in this game in just under 14 minutes played. That means while he was on the court for those 14 minutes, Carolina was 24 points better than Florida State. That is a huge number for Trimble. The run in total, and by the way, we're going to get to my conversation with Coach Davis, Adam's conversation with R.J. Davis, who poured in 27 more points in this game. You'll see and hear those in just a second. The run was 39-11. That made it from down 14 to up 14. And in that run, Adam, R.J. Davis, 9 points, 2 steals, an assist, a rebound. Armando Bacot, 7 points, 3 rebounds. Harrison Ingram, 6 points, an assist, 3 rebounds. Cormac Ryan, 5 points, 2 steals, 3 rebounds. Elliot Cadeau, 5 points, a steal, an assist, 3 rebounds. Trimble, 7 points, and an assist. So my point is, all of those guys were doing something. It wasn't just R.J. Davis hitting a bunch of shots or just Armando Bacot getting a bunch of offensive rebounds. A lot of different players contributed to the run.
It wasn't just one player got hot and made 4 threes, and all of a sudden Carolina was back in it. It was contributions from all over the court. You talked about Trimble. He was a huge part of the segment of that run that ended up being, I think, 22-0.
Yes.
You just don't see many 22-0 runs, but it felt like it. Like, it felt like Carolina was doing everything right, and Florida State was just completely flummoxed and couldn't figure out. Things had been so easy in the first half. But now all of a sudden it was tough to get it across midcourt, and they weren't quite sure how to handle that, and the Tar Heels just fed on that.
Yeah, Tar Heel pressure was – and they went to it early. I mean, sometimes you don't go to the press that early. Hubert Davis – and we've seen Carolina use that pressure some, but they amped it up even more in this particular game. Okay, let's get to the conversations. I sat down with Coach Davis. Adam talked to R.J. Davis, and we'll talk a little more about R.J. because he's on a historic scoring run here. We'll talk about him and some more after these interviews, after the Tar Heels come back and beat Florida State. This is the Rapid Reactions edition of the Carolina Insider. Carolina makes the big comeback, trailing by as many as 14 at one point in the second half, then leading by as many as 14 in the second half, and eventually wins by 8. I'm with the head coach of the Tar Heels, Hubert Davis, just checking out the stat sheet. Coach, what were you looking at there to get some information?
Just looking at it, it was a really wild game. I just felt like, for whatever reason, just our energy and our effort wasn't there. That's the foundation of who we are. We have to play with, max out energy. And, for the first half and coming out of the second half, it just didn't feel like it was there. We just weren't making plays, weren't getting loose balls. just a step slow on both ends of the floor. And then we started to press, and that started to get us alive. And the energy just picked up where it should have been, and we were allowed to come back and beat a really good athletic Florida State team.
Other than just getting some energy, what did you like kind of technically about what you guys did in the press that seemed to give them a lot of trouble?
Well, we did two things. One, we created turnovers, and that allowed us to be able to attack the basket and be able to convert off those turnovers. And then number two is it sped them up. And so they were out of their offense. They took quick shots. We rebounded the basketball, and then it got us out in transition, which where we wanted to be, because it's in a half court against a set defense against them. It's just very difficult. They switch everything on and off the ball. They have 2 7-footers all the time out there on the floor. So attacking a basket, it sounds easy, but it's very difficult. And so us getting out in transition, creating steals, getting into the penalty really early, I thought that was huge for us, because then we were shooting 2 free throws pretty much almost half of the second half. And so that was great for us. But that press did a lot for us on both ends of the floor.
You had a 3-guard lineup out there a lot with Seth and RJ and Elliott in the second half. What do you like about that group together? They seem very effective in that second half.
I do like it. That's 3 point guards out there. I love it. And I've always been a fan of having as many playmakers out there on the floor. So when you get pressed, nobody can take you out of your offense. We have multiple guys that can make plays. And because of Elliott and RJ and Seth and their ability to attack the basket, that got us into the penalty and got us to the free throw line. And really, with that press and making free throws, that cut that 14-point lead to single digits. And then now you look up at the score and you're like, okay, now we can go now. And so that was I like that lineup in there, and they played really well today.
Coach, that's now 3 straight games for RJ Davis with more than 27 points. I think it's 107 points in the last 4 games. As far as that first stat, he's the first Tar Heel to do that since Joseph Forte in 2001. There's only 10 Tar Heels that have ever done it. What's working for him right now? Is it just getting good shots? Is he hot? What are you liking about what he's doing offensively?
I think everything. I think he's hot. I think he's really good. He is an elite scorer on the ball and off the ball. And so when you have multiple playmakers like, Harrison and Elliott, and they're looking for him, like he's getting to the free throw line and making his free throws. From an offensive standpoint, he's just in a really nice rhythm. And doesn't surprise me that he continues to score 27 points and is exactly what we needed out there. We need him to be big every game, and he has really stepped up here at the beginning of the season.
Just 2 more quick things. It felt like the Smith Center was a big part of these 2 games this week. Just the energy, the crowd. It just felt like that was important to be here this week.
It's always a factor for us. It's just our fans, our student section, they're a 50 out of a 10. They just are. They give us life. The encouragement that we get from them gives us energy and gives us life out there. And even when we were down by 14, I just felt like the crowd was just waiting and waiting for us to get into it, and their support has been absolutely fantastic. And these 2 crowds on Wednesday and then Saturday afternoon in the ACC here is big time. They've been a tremendous help to us, and so the fans have been great.
Last thing, I know you got to go, but UConn on Tuesday, then you get exams, then Kentucky. I mean, this is a tough stretch. It's been a tough stretch, and it continues. How do you try and manage this with your guys and with another big challenge upcoming?
Yeah, everyone says, oh, this is a tough stretch. Yes, but tell me a point in Carolina basketball where there isn't a tough stretch. So, this is every year. Our non-conference schedule is one of the best in the country. Now you're having to play ACC games in December, and conference basketball can go either way. And so we're happy that we've won the last 3 games against really good opponents, and we're excited about the challenge of playing the defending national champions in Madison Square Garden. You know how much I love New York.
That comes up on Tuesday night, but for today, Carolina happy with the big comeback and the victory over Florida State. Coach, congratulations. Look forward to talking with you soon.
All right, thanks a lot. I appreciate it, Jones.
alongside RJ Davis. Again, he keeps doing it as the Tar Heels come back and beat Florida State. RJ, what an afternoon in the Smith Center. What was that like for you?
I mean, it was definitely an ugly game, but a win's a win. We kind of had low energy going to halftime and throughout the whole first half, and something had to change. And I just know Cormac, his saying it takes what it takes, and I think that's what we did there today. The way we were able to, change our vibe, change our energy going into the second half, and come back from a deficit, and you could just show us how much we want it. Sometimes with a new team is different, in terms of facing adversity, and I think we did a good job of keeping our composure and just showing our will and how much we wanted to win. And I think we did a great job of just sharing the rock and getting stops and kind of speeding them up a little bit, and then we was able to convert on the offensive end.
How did you change the vibe and the energy?
I mean, it's the first conference basketball game, and we kept saying that in the speech, in the halftime speech, like for us to have our first conference game and on our home floor, that's not the type of energy that we want to portray and go out there with. So going to the huddle was a lot of back and forth in terms of just trying to uplift and get something out of everyone, even from the bench. And I think that's what we were able to do going to the second half.
What did extending the defensive pressure do to them and in turn enable you to do?
It kind of got them into a pinch a little bit in terms of trying to find open guys, but we had guys flying around with our athleticism and speed. From myself to Harrison, Cormac, Seth, and Elliott, we were able to just kind of feel the passing lanes and anticipate the pass and the deflections. And we was able to get some steals and convert on the offensive end. I think we did a better job of our transition offense a little bit. We was able to get downhill, and once we got downhill, the defense collapsed and was able to find shooters.
Saturday afternoon crowd in the Smith Center, as things start to go downhill and go well for the Tar Heels as you're making that comeback, how much of that do you hear, and what role does that play to have that type of environment?
I mean, it's a great environment. Anytime you play in the Smith Center, any day, it could be a Saturday, it could be a Monday, it's always going to be great energy. But just to have our fans on our side, even when things weren't going our way, we were down, I think their energy, kind of uplifted ours, and we was able to just kind of keep chipping away. And, I mean, we didn't want to put ourselves in that position, but I think sometimes things like games like that are also needed just to test to see how mentally strong. It's never always physical. It's more mentally in terms of trying to make our way back, and we did a terrific job of doing that.
Okay, I'm going to read these names to you. In the entire history of Carolina basketball, these are the only players who have ever scored 27 points in 3 straight games, which you've now done.
Okay.
Some of these names you aren't going to know.
All right.
George Glamick, Lenny Rosenbluth, Pete Brennan, Billy Cunningham, Bob Lewis, Charles Scott, Phil Ford, Brad Daugherty, Joseph Forte. That's a lot of guys who have important places in the rafters at the Smith Center. Mm-hmm. What does it say that RJ Davis is in that kind of company about the way you're playing right now?
I mean, it feels great just to be with those, type of high-level caliber players that played here. It's definitely a great feeling. I'm definitely honored to be a part of that, and it kind of just shows how much I put into this offseason. And, I'm just trusting my work and trusting myself, and my teammates give me a lot of confidence and to go out there and just be myself. And, just to – as you names those lists, and for my name to be a part of it, that's only motivation to continue to keep it going.
It doesn't feel like you're hunting your shot during this stretch. How are you getting – you're getting plenty of points in the flow of the normal offense.
Yeah, and I think that's why this team is so great, because I don't feel like I always have to hunt my shots. I know my teammates are going to find me and vice versa. And I think when I'm able to be aggressive, that's when things kind of just slow down. And also me being a senior and seeing all different types of games in and outs of the game, I think everything is slowed down, and I'm able to pick my poison and get to my spots when I need to.
Got to plenty of spots today. RJ Davis, 27 points. Carolina, big ACC opening comeback win against Florida State. RJ, thank you.
Appreciate it.
So the Tar Heels improved to 7-1 overall and get that first win in their first opportunity in conference action. And Adam, you spoke to RJ Davis, and I think you mentioned this stat to him during this conversation. He becomes just the 10th Tar Heel ever and the first since Joseph Forte in 2001 to have 3 consecutive games of 27 or more points. You can stretch that back to a 4-game run now that he scored 107 points in 4 games. So it felt like there was one moment early in the second half where he was forcing it a little bit. Took a couple of threes when Carolina just wasn't doing really well offensively. But 8 of 17 from the floor, 8 of 8 at the free throw line. Another relatively efficient day to get that amount of points for R.J. Davis.
After we turned the camera off in that interview with R.J. Davis, he was asking some questions about Joe Forte. We were saying, that was in 2001. He goes, that's the year I was born. Come on, RJ, you didn't have that. The one mistake on the day was him making me feel ancient. But that's the kind of company he's in, and he's scoring at that type of clip. He's also important distributing the ball. I mean, he had 5 assists, as most on the team. So it's not just that he's jacking it up every time it touches his hands. And the free throw thing, that's quietly a big weapon for this team, not just for RJ. To have RJ be so good is good. But a lot of people have been good. Armando Bacot has gotten so much better, and that's what it feels like takes you from maybe like a 70-75% free throw shooting team to 75 or 80 because he didn't miss one today, and Carolina's been very good at the free throw line.
Yeah, Bacot was 5 of 5. Harrison Ingram, who started the year poorly at the line, has been shooting a lot better in the last several games. He was 5 of 7. Cormac Ryan went 2 of 3, and that was just his second miss all year. R.J. Davis, 8 of 8. So, I mean, you've got some weapons there at the free throw line for the Tar Heels. Seth Trimble was 3 for 4. Cadeau was 1 for 2 in his only opportunity. So you got some guys who have done well there at the line or are improving at the line in some of the cases like Trimble and Cadeau and Harrison Ingram. So, Adam, all in all, a great win for Carolina, one that I don't necessarily know if at the end of the year you point to this and say, that was the game. But if you lost it, Mac Brown likes to say all the time, you want to make a game important, lose it. And so it felt like this was a game Carolina could have lost. And it was on the ropes a bit, but a great response and when it mattered.
And something to build on for later for sure. Carolina's going to trail again at some point in the second half. Being down 14 and being able to turn it around that quickly, players are going to remember that. So it's doable.
So the Tar Heels win at 78-70 and improve to 7-1, 1-0 in conference action. And one more game before the exam break for the Tar Heels, and it's a big one. They're going to Madison Square Garden to face Connecticut Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. But for today, what a great day in the Smith Center. Tar Heels win it with the big comeback, 78-70, the final. It's been a rapid reactions edition of the Carolina Insider.